mysterious death curse washes over the land, driven by a powerful artifact known as the Soulmonger. 4 would-be heroes have been sent to the jungles of Chult to destroy the cause of this terrible affliction. Vale, the half-elven paladin, who's just now learning of his divinely granted powers. Ubo, the total monk from a distant land, who's as quick with his wit as he is with his staff. Asimar warlock, sent on this quest by her temple, discovering herself in this strange new land. And gunslinger Cole, tiefling artificer and archaeologist who may just dig up more than she bargained for. This motley band of adventurers must work together to brave the poisonous plants, venomous monsters, thundering dinosaurs, and rotting undead of the jungle. Join the omnipotent dungeon master Jake from mtd&d to see if our heroes can find the Soulmonger, uncover the deeper mysteries of Chult, and free the world from the death curse. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to Chult of Personality.
Hey internets, it's Jake. This is mtd&d, Chult of Personality, a Tomb of Annihilation D&D 5th edition campaign happening right here weekly on Mondays at 8:30 Eastern on Twitch. And tonight I am joined by Megan from the YouTube channel Dice on Ice. I am joined by Drake from the RPG Construct on YouTube, and half of the podcast Something RPG-ish, myself being the other half of that, on Facebook and Podbean and iTunes. And of course, the always graceful, I don't know why that's the adjective that popped to mind, but tonight Mike the Piper is the graceful one. And I'm Jake from Mini Terrain Domain. Normally we have a 4th player with us, Marquise, stereotypical Strider from A Point of Inspiration, but he will not be with us tonight, and he will pay dearly for that. Or we shall see. So, we are, of course, running Tomb of Annihilation. The adventurers just started out last week. We're going to do a quick recap. So, all of you were summoned from the various places throughout the Forgotten Realms and the Sword Coast. You were summoned to Baldur's Gate at the behest of a human adventurer who is retired by the name of Sindra Sylvain. And she told you that she confirmed the rumors that you had been hearing about. You'd been hearing some rumors about the death curse that is plaguing the Forgotten Realms, in which anybody who has ever been resurrected has started to waste away, and no resurrection magic works anymore. Clerics, wizards, necromancers, nobody can find a cure for this. Sindra's contacts in the Harpers have traced the source of this curse to the southern peninsula of Chult, and it is believed to be a powerful necromantic artifact known as the Soulmonger. The 4 of you agreed to aid her, or rather be hired by her, to try to discover what this Soulmonger is and see if you can stop it. She has agreed to pay you in rare magical items upon completion of your quest. And upon agreeing, she magically teleported you to the tropical region of Chult, whereupon you discovered yourself in Port Nyanzaru, the only city on the peninsula. You were greeted by bright colors, humid, hot temperatures, and dinosaurs everywhere. Dinosaurs of every size and shape wandering the streets with muzzles and bridles and saddles being used as beasts of burden, being used as transportation, and you've even heard used as racing vehicles. Syndra took you to her merchant prince friend, Wakanga Otamu. But before that happened, if you recall, our Asamar friend, Berlinia, was suddenly grabbed by a mysterious stranger who told her to seek out the wisdom in Orlongo near Mbala. And then he promptly passed out, and when he awoke, he forgot everything that had happened for the last 12 hours. Then you went to meet with Wakanga Utamu, who was very pleased to see that you were helping his friend, Syndra Sylvain. He confirmed some of the rumors, told you very little bit about Chult, and finding that Syndra had actually given you a very rare map of Chult, showing at least the coastal regions and a couple mountains and peaks. Wakanga shared with you an old journal that had been found in the jungle detailing a one-time wizard's shield guardian companion named Vorn, and that he believes he knows where that shield guardian is in the jungle, and he marked it on your map. He heard that you would like to stay at the Thundering Lizard, an inn near the Red Bazaar in Port Nyanzaru, known for its raucous good time. And Wakanga Otamu, being the good host and the gracious host that he is, has agreed to pay for your first night in Port Nyanzaru. Enjoy your night in the town. And so we join our adventurers as they are arriving at the Thundering Lizard. The Thundering Lizard is, you can tell that it is a place known for a raucous good time from the loud music coming from within. Almost as if on cue, as you enter the kind of the space that is at the front of the Thundering Lizard, you find yourself actually, I want all three of you to make dexterity checks. If we'll call it a saving throw. So if that's your saving throw ability, you can add your plus to that. And then just
you want them in chat?
No, I can't see the chat. So just tell me with your words.
4.
10.
10 for me.
As you are walking up to the front of this establishment and the music is just blaring, there's this, because of the heat and everything in this place, you've noticed that a lot of the buildings don't have glass fronts because nobody wants to keep the heat in. But there's almost like a lattice work type window at the front of this establishment. And as you're walking in, you hear a shout from within, a commotion, and that lattice work explodes outward, and a human figure flying through parallel to the ground, hits all three of you, knocking you prone. What is your reaction to this?
I think Ubo would, you would see him kind of get knocked prone, but he would kind of rock on his shell. Like his feet, as he was pushed back, like his feet would almost go up at like a 45-degree angle and almost hang there for a minute. And then he would come back and probably get to his feet fairly quickly, and just try to just compose himself very quickly. Excuse us. Are you okay?
The figure, a human man, he looks to be a local from his brightly colored garb and his darker complexion. And he just kind of gets up and he kind of looks at your waist, Ubo. Ubo being this massive turtle. He looks at your waist, then he kind of looks up and up. You're good. That was my fault. That was too much. You know what? Come inside. You find me. I'll buy all of you a drink. And then he just kind of stands there for a second, and he says, and he turns and just heaves into a planter next to you, and he kind of staggers. Whew. Don't forget, when you get inside, you find me and you buy me that drink. And he just takes off back inside the Thundering Lizard. Give me a passive, or not, yeah, give me a passive check. Give me a perception check.
18.
21.
11. I know nothing.
Both Ubo and Berlinia, it's at this point as you're kind of picking yourself up off the ground and this figure stumbles inside. You notice that your companion, Gunslinger Cole, the tiefling, she's not with you anymore. And Berlinia, you actually see, as the sky is starting to darken, so you're losing a lot of that natural light, there's still lights are popping up everywhere because this is the Red Bazaar. This is Port Nyanzaru. So there's paper lanterns everywhere. There's torches lit. You think you see Cole, her head kind of bob up and down a little bit as she seems to be wandering amongst some market stalls, and then she disappears.
I think Berlinia would actually let out a small sigh of relief. Obviously, they didn't get off on the best foot when they first met, and there's just something about her that unsettles Berlinia a lot. So to have just an evening just free of any additional stress, she's really happy about that. But yeah, she looks to this bar, and there is an obvious just look of worry and just apprehension on her face as she hears the music and sees the crowd.
And you will all recall that as you were leaving Wakanga Otamu's villa, that he told you to find whoever's manning the bar and just tell them that Wakanga Otamu is putting you up for the night, and that your needs will be taken care of for tonight. So, are you guys heading in?
So I'll kind of pat down my armor and, well, isn't this a right thing? Well, I'm ready to go in. A lot of you. Hopefully, the other patrons will be a bit more forgiving than that one. Seems like he's had a bit too much fun. Hey?
Are all establishments this loud?
Are you kidding me? No. Some are really loud. This is almost as quiet as a church. I cry your pardon on that one.
And she would just raise a finger just to be like, no. Joking. Yes. Okay.
And with that, Ubo would actually take a step or two closer to you, and he would just kind of extend this large arm with his claws, just to your shoulder, just very gently, put it on your shoulder, and say, "Don't worry. We are all together, and nothing here will harm you. You have my word.
As I lead in and go, well, technically we're not all really here, and then of course the rest of my voice just gets drowned out as I kind of swing through the door, and you hear this rapacious laughing and noise, which will be better explained by you.
Yeah, the bar is this inn and tavern. Food and drink is flowing readily. There are several local men and women that are all wearing a matching. They're all wearing, light colored clothing, linens, but they all have a matching bright green sash. And you can quickly surmise between this and the way they're flitting to and fro with platters and trays that this is the wait staff of the Thundering Lizard. And it seems as though the motion never really stops. All in all, it's a decent sized place with plenty of room to move between tables. The music doesn't seem to be coming from a live band per se. Just a handful of people, probably bards, have picked up their instruments and seem to just be kind of improvising a few tropical sounding ditties. And when one group of musicians ends, there's a round of cheering, and then another group, all of a sudden a fiddle will start up, and somebody will pick up with a pan flute and a guitar and a lyre and instruments, some percussion instruments. It seems as if anybody, even a few drunkards, drumming away, trying to keep beat on the tabletops. It's not... Once you get inside, you find that it's not so overpowering. You had that initial surge of a blast of just assaulting your senses. Once you're in here, it's amazing how the room itself seems to kind of take the sound and redistribute it in a way that if you raise your voice slightly, you can still speak to one another fairly normally. You don't have to shout to be heard. You can see that there's a couple tables where only one or two people sit. And there's a few empty spots at the bar and even a couple open tables in the room.
Well, should we speak to someone? Should we call in a night? What do the two of you feel is best?
Well, one thing I've always noticed is that if you go to a new place, you have to sample the local cuisine. If you don't and try to eat some of that food, you might be sitting in the privy longer than you'd like. So I think that it would be a very good idea if we sit down and have a few samplers of the local cuisine. What do you think, Berlinia? Come on, but you want to get yourself a drink, don't you?
I'll just have water, thanks. But, and she would she's kind of lost in thought. She's kind of lost, just looking around at everything.
I think that that Ubo would probably understand this. He's been the odd man out, not used to people before. Probably much older by 5, 6, 7 times than Berlinia is, and I think he would just notice how kind of anxious she was, and do that same thing. Just kind of put his hand on her shoulder and maybe just nudge her over towards the closest table that seems open, and just kind of push her in that direction. Just saying, here, sit down.
So you were
sorry,
motioning moving toward a table or the bar?
Yeah.
Or?
I wasn't even motioning. I was more pushing her towards a table. So if there's one a couple feet away, I'm just nudging her, even though my hand's on her arm gently. She's small. I'm just, literally pushing her towards the table nicely.
Okay. All right, and there is a table that's open for the three of you.
And are you familiar with? You speak about this cuisine. Are you familiar at all? I'm not sure what we should and should not partake of here.
Well, I know absolutely nothing about cuisine in Chult, but I'd well imagine that I'd probably want to at least try most things here in Chult, especially the more effervescent beverages. Yeah, maybe have a couple of different ales, or maybe even a lager or two. Depends on what they have here, really. I'd like to try it, no matter what. Come on, I bet you would as well, huh? Get you out of your shell.
While he's saying that, Jake, would he be?
You son of a bitch.
I would absolutely ignore it. Ignore it. Just used to it. But I think when he's talking, as he gets to that last part, before he was even finished, my hand would go up, and my one little claw would be extended towards like one of the waitresses or maidens, whatever you want to call them. Jen just like telling him to come here to the table, just kind of motioning him over.
Even as you're raising your hand, a Chultan woman approaches your table, and as you guys are kind of starting to sit down, she quickly, and with a very deft maneuver, she puts her foot up on one of the chairs closest to you, Ubo, and she just gives a yank up on the back of the chair, pulling it away from the chair, leaving a stool. Just seeing that you're going to require a little more room with your shell to be able to sit down. You're obviously not the first turtle, or at least not the first large person that she's seen in here. And she just looks at the three of you and says, "Well, I can tell by the look of you, you've never been to Chult before. Welcome to Port Nyanzaru. What can I get for you? Are you looking for food? Are you looking for drink? Are you looking for a good time?"
Yes.
Of course you are. Well, you've come to the Thundering Lizard, and that is where you will find your good time. Look around you, it is everywhere.
What? Looking over at his companions, what would you recommend?
Well, what is it that is your your palate desires? Do you want bursting fruit flavors? Do you want savory meats? Do you like to try perhaps the best way to put it is edible insects? Do you want alcohol, or do you want non-alcohol?
Before anyone else can even say anything, I'll be like, "Good evening, young lady. I think that the three of us would like to have 3 ales, a local one of Chult, and please, unfortunately, all of us have a severe water allergy, so if anyone even asks, even perhaps, perchance, even thinks about ordering water, just bring more ale. It's fine. And also, can we get a fine selection of meats? I mean, anything, any one of the many gods' adorable little creatures, as long as they were living once but are now dead and on a plate, we will gladly eat them. Maybe with a nice selection of fruits and cheeses. You do have cows in Chult, don't you?"
I've got just the thing for you. I will be bringing for you our most delicious and local beverage known as Tej. It is a very unique and distinct honeyed mead. I will also bring you a wonderful sample platter that will give you a taste of all that Port Nyanzaru has to offer.
Ah, lovely.
As long as you have the coin to pay for all of these, of course.
How much is it?
It depends on how much you are going to eat. Nobody eats for free.
Right, but Wakango Otamu? I know I said that wrong. Well, you see, I actually did say it wrong?
Yeah, you got it right.
Oh, I did. Oh, right. Wakango Otamu, we just came round his, and he suggested that we come here and get told him that he was putting us up for the night. So, I mean, there's that.
She gives you this look where she kind of leans back and tilts her head to the side and looks at you. Wakango Atamu. He say he going to put you up for the night. He
Yeah.
say he going to buy all your food and drink. Is this what you're telling me?
Well, he said he was going to put us up for the night. I mean,
That's
would wager-
exactly what he
I would
told
wager
us.
that's exactly what he would say. I mean, he hired us. Well, his friend hired us to go and
Mike, hold on.
Before you...
Hold on.
Oh, go ahead,
I,
Drake.
I would literally, as he just starts rambling, I would literally take one of my hands again and just put it over his mouth. Very.
Sure.
Yes, that's exactly what he told us. Please bring what we've asked. Thank you.
I was just playing with your goat. Wakango Atamu is known for his hospitality. Of course he sent you here. Everything is on Wakanga tonight. And she just disappears.
And with that,
Well, not literally. She just takes off. She doesn't literally disappear.
Because in a world with magic, you have to make that
you
distinction.
gotta make that clear.
and I think that when she went away quickly, I would take my hand out and I would just glare at you, Mike, and I would just perhaps telling everyone why we are here is not the best course of action. Perhaps a bit of anonymity may go a long way in this place. There may be people who don't want us here or want to take what we have or what we will have. You are young. You are impetuous. Do better.
Right. Well, we literally have nothing. I mean, I've got a few coin, and I've got a dagger. Well, I'd rather not because I did come with the rapier, but I've got a dagger I could pawn if I really had to. Maybe even a hunting trap, but really we've got nothing. I mean, we're not rich or nothing. Besides, I mean, I'm sure that's why everybody is here, to do the exact same thing that we're going to do.
There is a difference. We have a map. They do not.
All right, the map. Yeah, I forgot about that.
I say, did I hear somebody say Wakongo Otamu?
No, you're probably drunk.
I assure you, on most evenings, that would indeed be the case. But as it were, tonight I am not yet drunk. And you see that suddenly, where the waitress woman was moments before, a human man is standing there, and he seems to be a little slight of build. It's hard to pinpoint his age. He seems to be between 30 and 50. He does have a mug in his hand, and he's kind of chewing on a meerschaum pipe. And he has an air of dignity about him. He's currently wearing a curly mustache, kind of tan-colored clothes with suspenders and short rolled-up sleeves. And he says, "You'll have to forgive my impudence in overhearing you, as, truth be told, I was not eavesdropping, but you were talking quite loudly. As your turtle friend here was so astute to observe, perhaps you should not declare exactly what your mission is so loudly here in Port Nyanzaru. Particularly the fact that you have a map." And he leans in close. And then he says, "But my manners." And he switches hands, and he holds his hand out first to you, Vale? Is that right? I don't have your names on this sheet.
Yep, that's
Vale.
right.
He holds his hand out to you, and he says, Forgive my manners. Allow me to introduce myself. I am explorer, entrepreneur, and author Vulothamp Gadam. A pleasure to meet you. And you are?
I kind of stop. Like, I don't really reach out and take his hand right away. I kind of look at him a little bit and just sizing him up and down. And I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind making an insight roll on this individual. Like, I want to size this person up because I think they're a con artist or something, and this is going to help me out if I have to.
Go ahead and make an insight roll, and everybody else, including you, Mike, can also make history rolls. So tell me your history roll first.
I got 16 on history.
I got a 13 on history, but my insight, I got a 17.
Megan?
She just said nope, just nope.
Just nope.
I got a 2.
Okay. Ubo, you have actually heard the name Volothamp Gadarm before. You've heard him mentioned as an author of various books on various topics, and you know his name enough to know that supposedly he has written a new book on monstrous lore. Vale, you've heard the name before, but you don't know where. You get the sense that this figure calling himself Volotharp Gadarm is sincere. He is a bit on the flamboyant side, I guess. Just very boisterous in his quality, but you detect sincerity in the little bit that you've heard. And Berlinia, you have no idea who the hell this is.
I think with hearing that and just that instant kind of remembering, I think Ubo would actually stand up. How tall is this guy in comparison? I'm about 6.5 feet. So how tall is he?
He's a good foot shorter than you.
Okay. I think I would do that, and I would look at him and go, I'd say, Volothamp Gadarm. Yes, I'm familiar with you. You wrote a book on the dragon turtles, did you not, many years ago? Am I thinking right? Was that you?
This is, of course, absolutely 100% true. A man who knows exactly who he's talking to. Or
yes.
A turtle.
I found your conclusions to be completely false. In every way. Perhaps when you want to learn the truth about what they are, you could speak to someone such as I. But, nevertheless, well met. And then I would sit down and just kind of cross my arms very proudly.
And he just kind of looks at you for a moment, almost with this look of what, like he's about to refute what you have to say, or say something in response to what you've said. And he just kind of, as you sit down, pats your shell, and he says, "Perhaps sometime over several glasses of Tej, we can discuss dragon turtles in much further detail. But, my dear," and he holds his hand out to you, Berlinia, "Volotharp Gadarm at your service."
And Berlinia would just kind of smile and nod towards his gesture, but doesn't reach out, and says, Ilmater's blessing.
And seeing that two of you now have rejected his handshake, he just kind of...
Well, no, hang on. I didn't reject his handshake, because before I took it, that's why I wanted to make the rolls, because I wanted to size the guy up before I took his hand. So I wanted to make sure.
He extends his hand out to you and says again, "Volotharp Gadarm, at your service."
Master Gadam, and I'll stand up and I'll shake his hand. I've never read nothing. nothing of your stuff, though I can read, despite what it looks like, but be interested in learning more about you. And yeah, maybe we did speak a little bit loud. I know my mate here, he spoke quiet enough that, and I kind of like lower my voice till only he can hear me. I know my mate here only spoke about the map that I could hear him, and yet you did. So I imagine you're not eavesdropping, Master Gadam, but I hope that you're not going to be bothersome. If not, I would invite you to sit down and share some tej and meat with us.
Well, of course, I most graciously accept your offer to join you this evening. And without even looking, he just reaches back and grabs a vacant chair from one of the tables, spins it around in front of him, and he says, and of course, you have nothing to worry for me of trying to weasel my way into whatever it is that you find yourself embroiled in. I, of course, have been adventuring for many years, and have amassed much wealth, both in material and knowledge. But I can tell that you are all very green under the collar, and he looks at you, Ubo. No offense to you, sir. It's just, well, looking at the ladies' robes, they are still quite white and pristine, with barely any road dust upon them. Why, your leathers, though they do look as though they've seen a bit of wear, have surely not been soaked by the rains of Chult, which occur almost hourly. And to be quite frank, Master Turtle, well, I can't really tell. You could be a seasoned adventurer for all that I know. You seem to be quite wise. But I assure you, it is absolutely not my intention to steal from you. If anything, this evening I hope to impart some of my wisdom upon you. As a matter of fact, and he reaches into a messenger bag that he has on his side. He says, well, I happen to be here in Chult on a sort of book tour for my latest book. I've been visiting each of the merchant princes in turn and hoping that they will take a small portion of these books and agree to sell them to their clientele. It just so happens that tonight I have a copy of my book, and if you wish, it could be a signed edition at no extra fee, Volo's Guide to Monsters. It is, of course, available for sale now for a mere pittance of 50 gold pieces, beautifully hardbound and illustrated by myself. You will find within this tome much knowledge on animal and creature husbandry, a little bit of delving into some of the more, and he kind of glances at Berlinia, exotic races of the Forgotten Realms, and more than half of the tome is dedicated to monster lore. You will find this most indispensable in these jungles. Can I interest you in a copy?
I believe we would be interested in sharing some of your wisdom. I'm not sure that right now we have the ability to purchase your book, which undoubtedly would be helpful. Perhaps we could work out a trade?
Well, as it is quite clear, and he kind of looks you up and down, that you have been in Chult for, let me guess, less than half a day.
The length of time we've been here is of no consequence to you.
Well, at any rate, I can only wonder what you could have to trade me. Do tell. And as he leans back, the Chultan woman comes flitting in and places some these mugs that seem to be made from large pieces of bamboo in front of each of you, and she pours this golden shimmering liquid from a pitcher into each of your mugs, and Volo holds his out for a refill. And then she sets the pitcher still half full down in the middle of the table. And then she actually slides it off to the side as another server comes in with a very large, probably 2 to 3 feet in diameter platter. And it is just covered in a variety of meats, cheeses, fruits. There are actually some insects that look like large beetles. There are, like I said, fruits and plants. It looks like a combination of meats and salads and bugs. And places it before you. And Volo starts kind of, he kind of looks at the platter and he goes, excellent. You've started with the Nyanzaru sampler. And he kind of starts pointing at various things and saying what they are with such rapidity that it's hard to even retain it. You do catch that there is some beef. There's some type of lizard. There's alligator. There's chicken. There's goat. There's lamb. There's just all these different varieties of well-known tropical fruits, coconut, berries, pineapples, and a few other things that you've not really heard of before. And the beetles are something that he kind of points to, and there's 6 of these beetles that are sitting there, and he kind of looks at it, and he says, "You absolutely must try one of these. They are called Yaka. They are a perfectly harmless but meaty beetle found right here in Chult. They are so slow you can often find them out in the jungles. If you're in a pinch for a little bit of sustenance, these babies pack a wallop when it comes to protein. However, I recommend eating them cooked like this." And he takes one of these large beetles, and when I say large, I'm talking like this. He grabs it and he kind of lifts the carapace off, and then there's this like horrible, and where there was this meaty stuff, he sets it down at the empty beetle shell, and he just goes, "Ugh, Yaka." Do try some. And he kind of leans back.
I think at this point you would hear like an audible gag from Brilinia. She just kind of like looks in horror at what he's just done.
And I think seeing this, Ubo would actually probably respond to that gag and be like, "My dear, when you are in a neighbor's home, you partake of what they give you. It is only polite." And then I would grab one and do exactly what he did with it, and just looking at her, glaring at her the whole time.
I'll grab one as well, and I'm gonna cheers. I'm just gonna like clink carapaces with Ubo. Just think, right? Let's give this a shot then, and just kind of peel it. But I'm sure because I've never done this before, I've probably like peeled it wrong, and like half the carapace, like half the beetle meat kind of like sticks to the bottom of the carapace. So I'm kind of like trying to like flip it down and then scrape it along the top of the carapace, and then finally I just kind of get in there with my tongue and just accidentally even bite into the carapace. You get this kind of crunchy, like if you get sand in like a hot dog or something, you know, you're crunching. It's like, that's good, but the carapace is not good.
And Jake, how does this taste to us? Like, before we say how we respond, how does it taste to us?
You tell me how it tastes to you.
You know, I think to me, I think it would probably be fairly decent. And I think even if it wasn't, I would completely fake it to my comrades here, just like that's. And then obviously he doesn't have, he's a big old turtle head, so I think with that he would just take and just kind of pull it to the side, and then he would look back at the Ilmater lady there and just be like, well, we've all done it. It is now your turn.
No.
Come on, Brynhild. Come on. Bryn?
We can't.
Bryn.
We can't.
Bryn.
We can't do it.
Bryn.
We can't. No.
Bryn.
As
Come on,
as you guys
man.
start chanting Bryn, all around you, people start chanting. Somewhere near you, somebody just picks up on the fact that you're chanting, and you start hearing cups being banged against the tabletops, and all across the Thundering Lizard you hear Bryn, 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 Bryn. Somebody striking a tom-tom in time to the Bryn, Bryn. What are you gonna do?
First, she's gonna turn this like crimson red, which is even more red because it's just standing out with her white robes. And so, and she just kind of looks down, and then she looks back up, and she just kind of reaches out for this thing, and she picks it up, and she kind of looks it in the eyes for a little bit. She's just kind of staring at this thing. And then she just like closes her eyes and then does what she hopes is the best thing to do, which is to take this off. And then she just in one thing just eats it and like holds down, like gagging and like trying to, her body doesn't want this thing, but she finally at last swallows it. And then like this huge grin comes across her face.
What does it
as
taste
she
like? What did it taste like?
To her it tastes horrible. She is not used to yeah, it's this raw, it's kind of like, I imagine it's probably kind of maybe like an just like gross and slimy, and like just the consistency is not at all what she has ever eaten before in her life.
And as you take this Yaka beetle down, Volo kind of throws up his arms and cheers, and the entire clientele of the Thundering Lizard, hurrah, Bryn! And all around you, people are clapping you on the back, and you get the sense that nobody really knows what happened. They just know that you're Bryn, and everybody was chanting for you, and you did whatever it was.
And I think with that, with you realizing that, Ubo would just kind of look at you with this big grin on his face. See, such a small action had such an effect on this entire room. Well done.
And
she would kind of smile at you.
go ahead.
And like, sorry, she'd kind of smile at you, but immediately as soon as that smile is there, you can see her kind of like, her eyes would narrow and she would kind of like shiver a little bit, and then she would ask the nearest person where the bathroom is. Or just run out. Actually, no, she would just run outside. And yeah, she would disappear for a few minutes.
When you leave, I would Jake, do we have any of that Tej yet?
Yeah.
Okay. I would grab my tankard of Tej, and I would look over at Vale, and I would say, "My friends, to Bryn." And I would just raise my glass and just kind of do a cheers to everybody at the table, and then.
Aye, Brilinya. The bravest, most powerful cleric of Ilmater. Yeah.
That we know.
Well, details. Come on. And I'm gonna. So as as I'm kind of quaffing some of the tej, I get kind of a wrinkle, like a wrinkle in the back of my mind, just for a moment. Almost enough that it kind of wipes the smile off my face, just a little bit, and just shaking it off as if it were like a headache, or when you get one of those kind of like, why do I suddenly have this pain behind my eyeball, but it doesn't do anything, it doesn't affect anything, but I get this kind of weird sensation. Shake it off, and then I just go and grab something that looks like chicken, but is probably like Velociraptor for all I know. I'm just gonna grab like a big old thing of it and just like plunk it in my mouth, and grab some cheese, hoping that it's cow cheese. But that's another campaign. And then plunk a bit of that in my mouth and eat that. And
as you guys are kind of tucking in, maybe there's still three, there's actually still two of the yucca beetles left. If anybody wants them, there's plenty of other food. There's enough food for all of you easily to pick whatever you want from this. And Volo just kind of starts talking through mouthfuls. He's just kind of filling in the spaces, just kind of chattering away. Drake, go ahead and roll a D100 for me.
Okay. Second.
And Mike and Megan, go ahead and roll D100s and hold that number until I call on you.
That's a 90.
So Volo, he's just kind of filling in the space, and he goes, and you just kind of little bits of information kind of surface as he says, as a matter of fact, one of the things that I've heard here in Chult is that long ago there was a tribe of fisher folk called the Eldani. Yes, I believe they were called the Eldani. And they angered the once well-known Chultan god of Ubatau by catching and eating all of the lobsters in the river. And legend says, as punishment for their greed, they were all transformed into monsters that dwell in the Eldani Basin. I don't know what you make of it, but maybe keep your eye out for lobster men in the Eldani Basin. And then he kind of goes on rambling about different stuff. Mike, what'd you get?
Oh, almost muted. Got a 51.
And so a few minutes later, he another thing that just kind of surfaces between mouthfuls of food is he says, "Yeah, I heard that there was actually a Halruan airship. Have you ever seen an airship? I've not seen an airship this far south, but apparently one called the Star Goddess was expected here in Port Nyanzaru. But it never arrived, they say. My money's on that it crashed in the jungle. Something about the denser air, the humidity. I don't think that the air bag would have been able to hold it aloft. But that's just my theory."
Wait a minute. You mean a ship that flies through the air? I mean, like a clipper ship or something, but it flies through the air.
Right, exactly. That's what an airship is.
That doesn't make any sense. I mean, how could you take a piece of wood and float it up in the air? I mean, have you ever thrown a piece of wood up in the air? It tends to come right back at you. A lot faster than you threw it up. I mean...
How is it that you can take a small pebble and you can place it in a pond and it will sink to the bottom, but you can fill a ship with 10,000 pebbles and it will float across the surface of the water? Mysteries of science, my boy.
Right, okay, I thought you were just going to say magic, because that just seems to be the usual disclaimer around here, this kind of a thing.
A bit of magic, eh?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Aye. Right, fair enough.
And he begins, as the platter starts shifting away, and it's like a little transition. Megan, what'd you get?
I got a 50. Also, yeah, Berlinia would come back after only like a few minutes. She'd be back.
So you would have heard all of this as you eventually came back while he was just jabbering on about something. And he just kind of says, well, actually, I've heard that the jungle is actually full of all kinds of little nature spirits, weird little elemental creatures with masks. They don't speak, and I've never known one to be harmful. But their magical powers should not be taken lightly. That is, if you believe the local legends. Now, as the platter is now rapidly, the food is becoming scarce on the platter, as you guys have been picking at it and listening to Volo's stories and interjecting for about a half hour or so now. He says, well, again, if at any time you should find yourself requiring the knowledge that I have gathered within this tome, simply find me here in Port Nyanzaru, and for 50 gold pieces it is yours. And as I said, I will autograph it at no extra fee. But before I bid you good night, I must tell you of the most important thing you should know here in Port Nyanzaru and on the island of Chult. As you are very clearly new here to the island, I would highly recommend that you hire a guide. Somebody who knows the region and can take you around. Now, there are several guides that can be found right here in Port Nyanzaru, and there are a couple at Fort Beluarian, though I'm sure you'll meet up with them when you head up there. You are planning to go to Fort Beluarian, of course. Yes?
I mean,
Where we go is no concern of yours.
Well, let me put it to you this way, Turtle. And at this point, he's had a few glasses of Tej. So his movement, as he looks towards you, it's a little bit slower. As he says, let me put it to you this way, Turtle, sir. You are here on the island of Chult, and it is your intention to explore and plunder its riches, which is perfectly fine. That's why everybody here is, well, here. But if you are going to go much further south than Port Nyanzaru, it is highly advisable you head to Fort Beluarian and get yourself a charter of exploration. Else you run into the Flaming Fist, and they take it out of you, usually in the form of whatever it is you've collected.
I see.
If you catch my meaning. They're a sort of enforcement from Baldur's Gate that claim ownership over most of the region.
I think I would just nod. Just nod. And
within your right to take that chance and not purchase a charter of exploration. But don't say I didn't warn you.
how much is one then?
Well, I'm sure you could haggle your way to a price that meets your well, whatever your means may be.
Right. Well, I mean, it's if we don't have one, then we have to try and run away from these flaming fists. But if we do have one, and we meet one of these flaming fist types, then what? I mean, we just show them a piece of paper and say, yeah, we can do what we've got to do, and you can't say nothing about it.
Well, I would, even with a chart of exploration, I would highly recommend much more decorum when dealing with the Flaming Fist, as they are wont to follow their own rules from time to time. But as I recall, a charter of exploration can cost you roughly 50 gold pieces. But it's also considered a bit of a down payment on a portion of whatever it is you find here on the island. Those terms are to be taken up, of course, at Fort Belwarian. The Ara Porter is the commander up there.
And what, who would you recommend here to guide us? Who would be your first pick?
It really depends on where you're trying to go. So, you have quite a few people that you can choose from. Some of whom, as he looks around, I can see here in the inn this evening. In fact, if you look over my left shoulder, in the corner of the tavern, you will see a figure sitting alone at a table, cloaked in shadow. Their eyes seemingly the only thing to be illuminated, with a single mug of ale in front of them that they do not touch. Look, but don't look like you're looking. Do you look? You look over his shoulder, and you see in the corner, you see a table in shadow, and you see a mug of ale sitting untouched on the table, but there's no one there. And then you see a female figure walking up behind Volo. And she places her hand, one finger on one shoulder, and kind of runs it across the back of his neck to his other shoulder, and puts her hand on his shoulder as she says, I see you are here peddling your fiction, Volo Gadam. Please tell me that you have not purchased this hack's writings, as he looks at you, all of you.
With hearing this, I would get a huge grin on my face, agreeing that he is definitely a hack, as all of his conclusions were wrong in my mind. And I would just nod. I think just kind of in agreement. Just I wouldn't say anything else though.
Vale, Berlinia, any reaction?
I'm just gonna sit and not say anything, but I'll definitely be placing my hands, or at least one hand, my left hand down on my lap under the table, and I'm just gonna kind of get a dagger. I'm just gonna kind of like very gently, kind of move my hand towards my dagger.
Yeah, Berlina would just kind of look very confused from the man to the woman. What makes you say it's fiction?
Salida here likes to give me a hard time. Always trying to undercut my business. And she kind of looks at him, and she gives a very toothy grin. And then she kind of ruffles his hair and kind of shoves the back of his head, maybe just a little too hard, as she says, perhaps I was a little too hard on him. Volo is right, perhaps 60% of the time. I will concede this. You look new here, and I believe this is the part of the evening where Volo attempts to impart his knowledge of all of us guides. Let me spare you Volo's interpretation. I am Salida. I have led many expeditions throughout the wilds of Chult. I know secret trails that do not appear on any map. At your own risk, you will hire another guide. Azaka and Iku, they've led expeditions right into the jungle that have never returned. Farul and Gondolo are charlatans, plain and simple. Old Hugh, and with this she kind of tosses her head, and you can see that she's motioning toward a lone dwarf sitting at the bar. Hugh suffers from mad monkey fever. I'm sure of it. Musharib is an albino dwarf, and they are not to be trusted. And I hear tells that River Mist and Flask of Wine owe money to the Zentarum. For a mere 5 gold pieces a day, I will guide you through the jungle. It is a cheap price to pay for your lives. Spend your gold wisely. I will be here when you decide you want to hire me. She tips her head to Volo and just kind of...
As she was kind of walking away, Ubo would just kind of chime in and be like, I just have one question, if you had a moment.
Please.
You speak of all of these other guides and their failures. Have you ever failed on an expedition?
Do I look like I have failed? And looking at her, you see that she is... she appears to be Chultan. And she is... so she's human. And she's kind of short. She's about 5'4", so quite a bit shorter than you. And very light, but she is fit. Where she's small, she's taut, if that makes sense. Like you can see in her short sleeves that she's got muscles. She looks like, and she carries herself like a seasoned adventurer.
So would she answer the question though, or would she just say, what do it look like?
She says, do I look like I have failed?
My eyes aren't as astute as yours seem to be with judging the quality of people I'm looking at. I would like you to answer the question. I will only ask you one. And then whatever she answers, I want to roll an insight check.
She steps up close to you and almost so that her chest is touching yours, and she's looking right up at you, and she says, if you continue this arrogant attitude, you are going to get yourself and your friends killed in this jungle. Open your eyes and see better.
I think with that, I think Ubo would love how she answered in a bit of a riddle, bit of a puzzle, kind of in like a metaphor, so that I think with that he would just kind of look down and he would take half a step back and just nod. Okay then.
And she kind of pokes a finger at your chest, and as she walks away, just kind of traces that finger across to your arm and lets it linger for a second as she walks away, and just happens to walk to that shadowy corner and sits down. And Volo kind of, I'm sorry, I'm Salida. She always gets the best of me. But I would be lying if I said that she was not any good. I have never seen her fail in an expedition. But she is just one of your choices. Here in Port Nyanzaru, you could hire Izaka Stormfang. She is quite skilled, and her price is fairly reasonable. And I should say that the majority of the guides here in Port Nyanzaru operate under the Merchant Prince Jobal. They are all sanctioned. However, you will find a couple guides who operate outside of Jabal's purview. You are free, of course, to do whatever you wish, but I can tell you that if you hire anybody not sanctioned, you will not end up on Jabal's good side. I speak specifically of river mist and flask of wine. And he kind of looks around and he says, I don't see them here right now, but you will know them by their appearance. They are both tabaxi, or cat folk, if you've never heard of a tabaxi. So Azaka, she's on a bit of a mission herself, so she may try to get you to join her in her cause, as will several of these guides. You are free to decline them, of course, and pay their fee, but some of them have their own motivations. Iku is also an older woman, but she is very good at what she does. Farul and Gondolo, they are a human and a halfling that always work together. Old Hugh, that Salida was so kind to point out, is the dwarf that you see over there. Not that one, the one with the one arm. Very strong, very good in a fight, particularly if you should run into any dinosaurs in the wild, and of course, against the undead, that goes without saying. But he claims that his arm was taken by a dragon, and he does seek revenge. So there's that. Musharib is the albino dwarf. He's probably going to try to get you to help him reclaim his homeland. And there is, of course, Salida. If you wish to seek other guides, you can, of course, look for... There is, I believe, an old druid and a once famous Chultan gladiator, both that operate out of Fort Beluarian. Of course, it is entirely your pick. If you wish to meet with them and interview them yourself, we can arrange something. So basically, you've been given several choices. I can kind of summarize or repeat. But Volo, basically, he seems pretty knowledgeable of Port Nyanzaru, and all the different people.
I'll just look at Berlinia. Well, what do you think?
Same.
And Berlinia would kind of like furrow her brow a little bit. Salida was the name of the woman who came over, right?
Yes.
Okay. And she would say, well, we think that Salida did come over and speak to us directly. However, we would be careful of anyone who did not state their flaw. Anyone is only ever judged based on their flaw, and that's how...
I think I understand what you're saying. She comes on a bit strong. And perhaps
yes.
You feel as though, by failing to admit her flaw, she's not quite what she seems.
All we're saying is that she may be hiding something.
In all honesty, I think you're going to find that to be quite true of just about everybody here in Port Nyanzaru, and if I may be so bold as to say so, even amongst yourselves. But,
damn, who's the turtle monk now?
Well, the more tesh I drink, the more philosophical I get.
With that, I would start downing ales, as many as I could grab on the table, because I really enjoyed that last statement, Jake.
And he says, well, of course, it is getting late in the night, and it is not necessary for you to make your decision yet. I don't imagine you'll want to be heading into the jungle at night on your first visit. That would be insane. Rest on it. As you've said, Wakonga Otamu is putting you up tonight. Things are starting to die down. You'll find the rooms quite comfortable. Seek me out in the morning, and I can arrange interviews with any of the... And his words are cut off by a commotion at the back of the tavern. You hear... The first thing you notice, actually, is the sudden stopping of some music that was playing, and the instant shift in the atmosphere as everybody gets kind of quiet, and you hear that of chairs sliding across the floor suddenly. And at the back of the tavern, some people have stood up quite suddenly at their table. And one of them slams his fist on the table. And you can tell they're all a little bit drunk. I told you, any day or night, my mount could take any one of you. And I'm willing to put my ownership papers on the table to prove it. Which one of you's got the balls to do that? And don't give me that look, Leaker. I know you're a woman, but you've still got balls when it comes to racing. And these figures just start shouting at one another. And there's more of this going back and forth. And this woman is kind of shouting at him. It's mostly drunk rambling. Some of the din is kind of picked up. And then all of a sudden, the three people in particular at the table, they all go, "For papers, then." "I'll put my papers up." "I'll put my papers, too." And they all slap papers on the table. And they seem to nominate somebody. And you can't see it first. And then suddenly this little gnome female, she looks a little rough around the edges, almost like what would pass for like a punk. Wearing leathers and various, like, she's got some spiked jewelry. She's got 2 pigtails that come up, and she takes these papers and she jumps up on the table and she raises the papers in the air as she says, "Dinosaur Street Racing!" And everybody erupts in cheers and starts making a run for outside as the tavern starts to empty. And as everybody's filtering around you, Volo says, "Well, this should be interesting. Nighttime dinosaur racing isn't, it's not entirely sanctioned. No doubt this will be, as they call it, off the chain." And he's... I realized as I was saying it, and all of you shook your head in shame, but I will say this, as Volo explains, off the chain means that the riders will not be restraining their mounts. They will not be muzzled. That they will, in fact, be racing no holds barred, or what the locals call off the chain. Damn you, Wizards of the Coast and Chris Perkins, for making me say that. I did not see that before. Oh, man.
So much better that you didn't, though.
So everybody is pouring out into the streets for what appears to be an illegal dinosaur street race at night through the streets of Chult.
This looks like fun. I think with all the excitement, I think we should go. And I would probably say that to my companions. Let's check it out. It's an adventure. It's a new experience.
Volo has even gotten up, and if you don't go, you are going to be the only ones left in the tavern.
Let's go. Let's check it out.
Sure. I mean, the alternative is while everybody's busy watching this straight race, we could probably go through most of the things and nick the kit. But yeah, all right, let's go. I'm bringing all my stuff with me, though. So just you do the same.
As you guys filter outside, and you start to kind of just follow the crowd and see where people are kind of spreading out to line the streets. The three people in particular have spread out to apparently go get their mounts. And as they come back, the camera's going to shift focus to the racers queuing up their mounts and getting ready to race. And for this next segment, each of you are going to play the part of a dino racer. So first off, we are going to determine what dinosaur mount each of you has and what its name is, and then what your rider's animal handling skill is. So first, I need a D6 roll from everybody.
3.
5 for me.
6.
You just rolled a 6, Megan?
Yes.
Okay, you're gonna
Yes,
like
I did.
this. You're gonna like this.
Oh.
All right, so now I need a Drake. Give me a D12 roll.
Okay. 11.
Mike, a D12.
Yeah, a 3.
I don't like
Megan?
when the GM laughs. That's just not.
I know. But here's the thing, though. When the GM laughs, it's not good. But when the GM giggles and his voice goes up about 3 octaves, then
Oh, yeah.
all over. And it's like, here's a cyber vampire Tarrasque. Here, you chew on this for a while.
All right, Megan, a D12.
I got a 6.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, apparently Megan's doing well. Yay!
All right, and finally, we're going to roll to see what your animal handling skill is. And you'll definitely want to make sure you write this down because this is going to determine how well you do in each segment. So I need a D6 roll from each of you. And duplicates are fine.
6.
2.
5.
Okay, Drake, your rider has an animal handling of 16, which is plus 3.
Nice.
Mike, 15. Nope, sorry, 10. You rolled the 2. So you have plus 0 on your animal handling. Megan, yours is 15, so that's a plus 2. Now, Drake, your rider is riding a Dimetrodon.
Oh, that's the thing with the big sail, right?
They got the big fin on their back. And
Okay.
the Dimetrodon's name is Triple Crown Royal.
Okay. So
That's all.
TCR. Okay.
Yep. Mike, your rider is on a young Triceratops by the name of Fruit on the Bottom.
No, in his case, it's fruit on the top.
And Megan, your rider is on a young Tyrannosaurus Rex by the name of Fury of the Nine Hells.
Well, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Imagine if Megan had rolled Fury of the or had rolled Fruit on the Bottom for her Tyrannosaurus Rex, or Not a Damn Bird was another name. I'll share some of the other dino names later, but so you guys have your animal handling checks. So here's what's going to happen. So each round, you're going to roll an animal handling check. Well, let me find my page. I turned away from it.
I'm sorry, Mike. What was your mount? What species?
It's a young Triceratops.
Oh, okay. Triceratops, T-Rex, and a Dimetrodon. Okay.
32. Okay. So here's what's going to happen. You are going to So you're going to roll the check, and that's going to determine if you make your speed for that round. If you fail, you don't gain any ground in that round. You can Roll for advantage by lashing your dinosaur with a riding whip to get more speed out of it.
What's the drawback of lashing it?
Why ever do you ask?
Because we unmuzzled them and I don't want to eat our faces off.
Your dinosaur mount will react potentially to a lashing. That's all I'll say. Because this event is off the chain or unchained, if your dinosaurs, if your total tally in your distance, if you're within 50 feet of each other, or we'll just say 50, I just lost my place. Okay. Then you can, at the end of the round, your dinosaur can attack one of the dinosaurs in range.
Okay.
The goal is going to be the first one to 300. This is a quick race around. I have all of the dinosaur speeds and stats and skill checks for each of your mounts, so I will just have you make the appropriate rolls. So for each round, it does not matter what order you roll in. I will just get your checks, and we will see how you guys do. The excitement is mounting in the crowd as the riders take to their mounts. There's much snapping at the starting line as we have a Triceratops, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and a Dimetrodon. In case anybody doesn't know what a Dimetrodon is, those are the four-legged kind of giant iguana-looking ones with the giant dorsal fin on their back. The rider sits perched just behind the head in front of the sail. The little pierced gnome comes out in front of the dinosaurs, and she holds the ownership papers for the dinosaurs as she stands in front, holding her hand up, and a hush falls over the crowd as she quickly throws her hand down and throws her other one up, and the dinosaurs take off. Everybody, make your first animal handling check.
16.
11.
15.
So we got a 16 for Drake.
Mm-hmm.
So your dinosaur takes off, moving quickly 30 feet ahead. Mike, what'd you get?
I got an 11.
There's a weird moment where your Triceratops seems to be almost like a cartoon doing this as loose ground underneath its feet just kind of gets kicked, and it stutters taking off of the starting line. And wait a minute. Hold on. Yeah. And then what'd you get, Megan?
So that's 15 plus 2, so 17.
Your Tyrannosaurus Rex is kind of just chomping and roaring and putting on quite a show and doesn't go anywhere. Because it is an unchained event, all dinosaurs are within 50 feet of each other. Does anybody wish for their amount to attack another one? Megan's shaking her head, yes. All right.
Yes.
What is your T-Rex going to attack?
The sail dinosaur.
Oh,
The one that
screw
lunged
you.
out as he kind of lunges forward. So go ahead and make an attack roll.
I'm a nice cleric, but I want to be
And
a
that's-
freaking.
That's going to be a +6 to hit.
You bitch.
Wow.
That's a 15.
And the Dimetrodon has a 12 AC, so that is a hit. So roll 1d12 plus 3.
Mike, care for allies here, buddy? Take out the T-Rex.
8.
All right. As you take a chunk out of the Dimetrodon,
I imagine that he like comes down and like takes a chunk out of the back of the sail. So there's like a chunk taken out like in the shape of a T-Rex mouth.
Absolutely. Anybody else attacking? All right, next round. Roll your animal handling checks.
8.
You lunge forward another 30 feet. Mike.
14.
The Triceratops, fruit on the bottom, suddenly finds purchase and lurches ahead, quickly closing the gap to within 10 feet as you move forward 50 feet, only 10 feet behind Triple Crown Royal. And Megan, how'd your T-Rex do?
21.
Neck and neck with the Triceratops, Fury of the Nine Hells lunges forward, tail stuck out behind it as Fury of the Nine Hells and Fruit on the Bottom are even. Any attacks?
Go ahead, Megan. You want to keep doing it? Go ahead. Play it like you think you should. Payback's a bitch. I'm just saying.
Actually, Fruit on the Bottom, since they're neck and neck with the Tyrannosaurus, is going to... now, I'm wondering, can this Triceratops initiate its charge attack? As it's charging, it just charges right into the T-Rex. Can that be a thing?
Yes.
I don't know.
It's not going to be like... Yes, we'll say it's charging. Like it's kind of like two cars racing and you just kind of veer over and slam into the T-Rex. Go ahead and roll the attack at +5.
Oh, 23.
You slam into... Fruit on the Bottom slams into Fury of the Nine Hells, dealing 1d10 + 1 in damage.
Nice. That'll be 8 points of damage.
Yeah, Fury is going to retaliate by trying to take a snap at...
All right, roll the attack +6.
That's 20.
And it's a successful 1d12 + 3.
5.
I regret nothing.
As a chunk comes out of the flesh of the T-Rex, or the Triceratops. Fruit on the Bottom and Fury of the Nine Hells are engaged in vicious battle. Triple Crown Royal, mere feet ahead as we commence the next round. Roll animal handling checks.
20.
Lunging
Unnatural.
forward again, another 30 feet.
9.
Caught in this vicious fight, you gather no ground. Megan.
15.
Too busy engaged in their squabble, allowing Triple Crown Royal to surge ahead. Fruit on the Bottom and Fury of the Nine Hells engaged as Mortal Kombat enemies. Are you still going to fight, or are you going to concentrate on racing? And don't forget, you can lash your dinosaur to get a little boost of speed. Rolling your animal handling check at advantage.
I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna lash my dinosaur.
Now, Jake, would that be this round or next round? Because we already rolled for this round. Next round, she would lash, right?
Yeah, that's for the next round.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yep. Everybody roll. If you're going to lash your dinosaur, roll with advantage and let me know if you're lashing.
Same thing, Jake. 17 + 3, 20.
Okay.
I'm not lashing. 16 for me.
You surge ahead another 50 feet.
What did I do, Jake? Same thing?
What's that?
Do I go another 30 with my 20?
Yeah, you another 30. And Meg, how'd you do? You're muted?
Oh, I did lash, and I got a 14.
So, you do not move, and I need your T-Rex to make a Constitution saving throw. Your Constitution saving throw is +3.
That's a 15.
What did you get on your skill check?
The animal handling, I got a 14.
Yeah, 14. Yeah.
Okay. And what'd you get on your saving throw?
14.
Okay. No disadvantage incurred. It passes its Constitution saving throw, but you gain no ground this round.
So where is everybody
As
now,
it now
Jake?
stands, both Fruit on the Bottom and Triple Crown Royal are about a third of the way through the distance. And they are... Fruit on the Bottom is 50 feet in front of Fury of the Nine Hells, and Triple Crown Royal is leading at 120 feet. 70
So how
feet
far?
away.
Okay, so I'm 20 feet ahead of Mike. Okay.
Yep. Next round. Lash him if you wanna.
12.
The Dimetrodon surges ahead.
16 for me.
Suddenly, a burst of speed, and Fruit on the Bottom and Triple Crown Royal are neck and neck. How'd you do, Fury of the Nine Hells?
I got a 6.
Were you lashing it?
Nope.
Oh, okay. The rider on Fury of the Nine Hells is struggling to keep control of this mount. It's just lashing to and fro, its tail whipping around, and seems to be running in circles, gaining no ground. It's very apparent that a Tyrannosaurus Rex, while awesome, is very difficult to handle.
Who knew? Who knew?
Next
riding a 30-ton.
Well, it's
dinosaur.
a young T-Rex.
Okay. Who knew riding a 12-ton dinosaur of muscle, teeth, and death would be so hard to control? Next week, fire elementals can't be controlled that easily. What is this sorcery?
It's 12, Jake.
All right. Over halfway. How'd you do, Fruit on the Bottom?
I got a 7.
Gaining no ground. And Fury of the Nine Hells.
10.
So as it stands right now, Triple Crown Royal is in the lead at 180. 30 feet beyond at 150 is Fruit on the Bottom, and still stuck, not far away from the starting line, is Fury of the Nine Hells.
How far back is she?
She is 130 feet behind you.
So she's only at 50 feet.
Yep.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
next round.
Unnatural 20. I like this dice.
All right.
12 for me.
The Triceratops had a burst of speed, but Fruit on the Bottom is scraping the fuel reserves. How's Fury of the Nine Hells doing?
I did get a 17, but I hit it.
So not only do you not move, you need to make another Constitution saving throw.
I got a 14 again.
So the rider maintains control of the dinosaur. The dinosaur doesn't freak out from being whipped. And we go into another round with Triple Crown Royal, 60 feet in the lead, ahead of Fruit on the Bottom. And neither one of you can even see where Fury of the Nine Hells is.
I got a 5.
What? You haven't been whipping yours at all, right?
Nope.
All right. No movement.
I got 13.
No movement. And Fury of the Nine Hells.
I got an 18, but I also did whip it because I got an crit fail.
So, you surge ahead, suddenly gaining control of your mount, lurching a full 100 feet, catching up to Fruit on the bottom, and 60 feet behind Triple Crown Royal. I need a con save.
13.
Your T-Rex is in a lather, but is still holding strong. Next round.
15.
14 for me.
Got a 10.
That burst of speed was good for just that 100 feet, apparently. As Triple Crown Royal surges ahead another 30 feet, the finish line in sight. Fruit on the bottom closing in only 40 feet behind Triple Crown Royal. And 50 feet behind is Fury of the Nine Hells. Did you lash your dinosaur that time? Okay. Looks like we've only got possibly a couple more rounds left as the finish line, the crowd has gathered on either side, waiting for the dinos and the riders to cross. Next round.
Seeing the finish line, I'm gonna lash him on this one.
Okay.
Roll with advantage here. 22.
So you need to make a Constitution saving throw. That is for you a +2.
Okay. It's going to be a 15.
That is a success. Surging ahead 50 feet. You are a mere 10 feet from the finish line. Fruit on the bottom. Triple Crown Royal.
I lashed poor Fruity.
You lashed Fruit on the bottom, and what happened?
I got a nat 20.
Surging 75 feet ahead, you are a mere 15 feet behind Triple Crown Royal. And what happened with Fury of the Nine Hells?
I did lash, and I got a 21.
Lunging another 100 feet. You are 40 feet behind the leader, 25 feet behind second place. I need a con save, +3.
I got a 6.
Your T-Rex is in such a lather. Fortunately, this appears that it's going to be the last round unless everybody fails. Your T-Rex slows to half speed. Everybody roll. Lash him if you want, or don't.
Yeah, of course we're going to lash. Well, yeah. Of course I got to lash him on the last one. I'm going to use a different die, though. Ah, shoot.
I lashed and I got a 15.
All right.
I lashed and I got a 19.
Ooh.
On my pink dice.
Ooh.
Interesting. So you lashed and you got that. So that's... Oh, boy. And then what happened with Fury of the Nine Hells?
I lashed, and I got a nat 20.
Awesome. So and your speed is halved, so you surge. Okay. So I need everybody to make the Constitution saving throw.
Seven.
9. Man, I was lucky. I was kind of worried. I'm like, oh man, I got a 9. I'm
12.
So here's what happens in this last surge. Riders furiously lashing at their dinosaurs. The T-Rex in a lather struggling to keep up. Triple Crown Royal closing in mere feet from the finish line when a dark blur shoots past at the last second. Fruit on the bottom crosses the finish line a mere split second before Triple Crown Royal.
Fake news.
After both dinosaurs are across the line, here comes Fury of the Nine Hells. Surprisingly, only about 2 seconds behind. As the dinosaurs cross the finish line, there is an eruption of cheers. There is, of course, both the rider on Triple Crown Royal and the rider on Fury of the Nine Hells are furious and are screaming as the rider of Fruit on the Bottom walks up to the tiny pierced gnome and collects the ownership papers for all 3 dinosaurs. There's much cheering and commotion, but I need everybody, and this is back as the camera shoots back. What was that? What are you ripping up?
Ownership
Ripping up
papers.
his rider character sheet.
I need everybody, as the camera snaps back to Ubo, Berlinia, and Vale, I need you all to make perception checks.
12.
15.
14.
As everybody's watching the exciting commotion as the dinosaurs come across the finish line and all of this commotion is happening with the exchange of the papers, the new owner, who is himself a half-elf, the rider of Fruit on the Bottom happened to be a half-elf male, he takes the reins for Triple Crown Royal, and he heads over to take the reins for Fury of the Nine Hells. The dinosaur, the T-Rex, the young T-Rex, is in a lather. It's bleeding from the wounds sustained in the earlier melee. And as he reaches for its reins, the rider, who happened to be a half-orc man, shouts some command in Orcish. And the T-Rex whips around, swinging its tail. And the half-elf is quick, almost as if he anticipated this. He ducks deftly below the swinging tail. And that's when Vale, you notice, seeming oblivious to all of the excitement happening around, bursting from the crowd across the street and heading toward the inn, is Gunslinger Cole. And as she bursts out of the crowd, she takes 3 steps. And before you can even say anything, the tail of the T-Rex swings around, slams her in the back, and shoots her 15 feet across the raceway, where she lands in a tumbled heap, unconscious. And that's where we're going to end tonight.
That'll teach you to miss a session, Marquise.
That was the dexterity saving throw that I made Marquise roll before the session, that he rolled a 2 on.
So, Jake, was that in the book, or did you just do that?
Was what in the book?
Like the dinosaur race and everything?
There are varieties of dinosaur racing in the book. I more or less ran the dinosaur race by the book, in that you take on riders, you make skill checks. Each dinosaur has its own speed. There's a standard and a lashing speed. You have a DC for your dinosaur. And actually, Megan, you had the only dinosaur that has a asterisk next to the animal handling check. That if you fail your animal handling check by 5 or more while lashing your dinosaur, the animal goes berserk and leaves the race. It basically just goes on a rampage. You came close.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
You had one where you missed by 4.
Oh, man.
And then the Constitution saving throws are just to see when you're whipping them if they if their speed gets halved, which that didn't happen to anybody till the end of the race.
That was neat, though.
The names. So I came up with the way for it to be fair. I just put a use standard array 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16 and assign D6 values to have you decide what your rider had. That way it was completely randomized. And then I came up with 12 names and had you guys roll a D12.
Wait, you came up with fruit on the bottom?
What the other racers' names were? Or could have been?
Go for it.
So we had Kid Lightning, Fantasy Island, Fruit on the Bottom, Full Tankard, Belly of the Beast, Fury of the Nine Hells, Destiny's Child, Not a Damn Bird, Land Shark, Party Favor, Triple Crown Royal, and Ripjaw. And these were I just real quick wrote some names down on paper.
Fruit on the bottom. Wait, Jake, where'd you get that from? I mean, because that's yogurt, right?
Okay, so full disclosure, I may have written these right around my lunch break when I had just eaten a fruit on the bottom, oikos or whatever, Greek yogurt.
I figured.
That's great.
So that one may have been influenced by real world
oh, it was
events.
Funny.
That's beautiful.
No, it was fun, man. That was a good session.
Yeah, you guys.
We didn't get anything accomplished, but it was still fun.
You learned a lot.
Yeah,
and
we did.
One of the things for anybody that may happen to be watching this, one of the things that I do because this is our style is very cinematic and RP heavy. I don't make these guys have to know every name, place, and everything I say. So I summarize a lot of the information in our session notes. So I will summarize the things that Volo shared with you, the names of the guides, and all that information in the session notes. I will bring Marquise up to speed, and we'll deal with that in the next session, which will be next Monday night. So I'm going to go ahead and fade to the outro screen. I want to take this time to thank everybody that has watched or may watch this in the video on demand, either on YouTube or Twitch. Thank you for tuning into our game. This is Chult of Personality, Tomb of Annihilation. Be sure to check these guys out on Twitter and YouTube. Drake, the RPG Construct. Also something RPG-ish. Mike, the Piper. And Megan can be found on YouTube as one half of Dice on Ice, where they run some awesome games in their home world of Kryphoth. And of course, all of these folks run games and do wonderful things online. Be sure to check them out, follow them, subscribe. And of course, I can be found at Mini Terrain Domain and Something RPG-ish. So thank you all for watching. I've been Jake from Mini Terrain Domain. This has been mtd&d.